Very nice. Okay, we are live. We are live for LinkedIn 101. So let me go and make sure that it is going live, and I'll find that here. So it's not showing up quite yet. Hey everyone, welcome. Just trying to give people a few minutes to join. Okay, there's the announcements are coming. So okay, perfect. Well, perfect. So look in the chat. What's happening? Okay. Hey Adrian. Hey Meryl. Hey Michelle. Welcome guys. So yeah, we're gonna get up and started. We were off last week because I had this idea that I could schedule a dentist appointment in the middle of the afternoon and still be home by 6 o'clock until I got there and the dentist said, so had an emergency patient, got to take care of that, which then turned into an hour. And it was one of those things where we still didn't finish everything for me. So I have to go back on the 11th, but yeah. So by the time I got in my car, I had people messaging me, which I loved, by the way. Hey, what's happening? Are you doing? I'm like, I am literally in traffic across town. No, I was like, I don't know what's happening. I can't concentrate right now. So, but we're back. So I'm just going to pass the mic over to Roy. Roy, introduce yourself, then Michelle, and then I'll introduce myself, and we'll get started on today's topic.
Thanks so much, Mel and Shell. I am driving to my office at the moment. I'll be there probably in about 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes max. My name is Roy Kowalski. I'm based in Sydney, Australia. It's Friday morning at 10 a.m. So if anyone wants to know what happens on Thursday evenings, I've been there, done it, and I know exactly what took place. Um, I call myself a promotional product disruptor. And you've heard me say this a number of times, but I actually bumped into somebody in the elevator this week, and they said, "Aren't you the promotional product disruptor?" Now, isn't that powerful? Because that's what we do: is we turn up week after week and try and show levels of consistency for people to be able to understand who we are, what we do, who we serve, and what we want to be known for. And that's what I try and do day in and day out through my LinkedIn engagement and content creation. My name is Roy, and I'm out.
I love that you're getting recognized in more and more places, Roy. It's the power of really good branding, right? And consistent branding. Uh, Let me take that time to introduce myself now. I'm Shell, your LinkedIn cheerleader. Most of you in the audience already know me, but for those of you who don't, what your LinkedIn cheerleader affectionately does is encourages you to get excited to show up on the platform. I want you to feel comfortable, confident, and encouraged to have more of the conversations that matter to you. I'm really passionate about that. We talk about intentional engagement a lot as a strategy that also has many sub strategies underneath it in order to reach your target audience, to find more opportunities, to get in front of the right people, to have more conversations that can allow you to have an impact. And so that's what I'm excited to cheer you on to do. And yes, Adrian, consistency is key. So I'm going to pass it back over to Melanie and let's kick this conversation off.
Yep. And thank you guys so much. And of course, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Melanie Mitchell Wexler. I am a career coach as well as a LinkedIn strategist. My goal is to show professionals how you can use this platform to be found, seen, and to be heard. It is more than just a job board, it is your digital first impression. So, looking forward to today's topic. But before we do that, please feel free, if you're watching, introduce yourself, leave a comment, let us know where you're from, especially if it's the first time that you are listening to us. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll catch them and we'll ask them accordingly. We like to have a round robin conversation. And yeah, and tonight's topic is what message is your LinkedIn profile sending? And I think this is, as I mentioned, LinkedIn is your first digital impression. Most usually, that's if you're, in any type of profession, that's where a lot of people are going to go. There's over 1 billion users on this platform. Not sure how many of them are um, not real people, but LinkedIn does say that there's 1 billion users. So that being said, when you first hear the topic, Roy, what is your LinkedIn profile? What's the message your LinkedIn profile is sending? What was your first thought to that?
It was quite simple. Is that what do you want to be known for? When I saw that topic, I think to myself, and I see a lot of profiles because I'm a bit of a serial LinkedIn user. I look at a lot of profiles because of these conversations that we have. And so many times you look at someone's profile and you ask yourself, what do they actually do? I mean, if you have a headline that says CEO, guess what? You're amongst 1.5 billion and 10 billion users that are CEOs. If you have a headline that says managing director, meaningless. So I think the important thing is to know what you want to convey as quickly as possible in your profile so people know this is what you want to be known for. That's my starting point. My name is Roy.
Perfect. Shell, same question for you. What's your first thought when you think of like what's the message your profile sending?
Yeah, I think it's in line with what Roy shared. Some of the first things that I think of is who are you? What do you want to be known for? Who do you serve? How can you help? And why should people care? So that just goes in line with what Roy has already shared. But if you start asking yourself those other questions, you can start to piece together the personal branding puzzle that becomes you, that becomes your story and the story that you want to tell. I think it's also worth mentioning that as humans, as individuals, we have lots of stories that we can tell, but it's a matter of like which ones right now are the most important for you to tell, for you to share, that your audience can relate to, your ideal audience, that people will resonate with, that they can see themselves either in a past version of that or something to look forward to for the future where they could possibly see themselves going. So, like, what stories make the most sense for you to share right now? And at any given time, we're growing and changing and evolving, and your profile needs to grow and change and evolve too. And so I like to think of LinkedIn not as a static set it and forget it kind of thing, but as a like, who are you right now and what matters most? So I know I keep saying different variations of the same thing, but I also want you to think about when was the last time that you took a look at your profile? To is it still up to date, or do you need to go back and refine that messaging that was previously aligned and now maybe doesn't make as much sense? So that's a lot to answer that one question.
Well, there's a couple of things that, well, first I want to say, Michelle, I know that Roy is now at his office, so he's going to be getting settled, and then we'll bring him back in. So he's safe. He doesn't have to travel too far. But thank you I know it can make people nervous watching Roy drive and talk at the same time. So, but that also being said, back to the topic, I think that one of the things that we teach in the LinkedIn Rockstar Academy is understanding what your purpose, what your why, what your goal is. Why are you here? What do you hope to achieve? And I think you have that. To me, that's a piece that a lot of people don't have. It's one of the things that I think we have to say. We could, for my clients, say maybe consultants or saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a job, or I'm looking for clients, or I'm looking for this." Okay, that's great, but what specifically? Like, we have to be very specific with it, and we have to like really chisel it down to the thinking of it as like a sculpture and sculpture, a sculpture that you're, I don't know how a sculpture made of stone. Like I don't, this is the worst analogy ever, but really being able to think about like how we break this down and how do we shape this into the, into the thing that we want, people to see us for. And it is an ongoing process. And so I think that's, I've actually had several calls today. It's been a little bit busier of a Thursday than normal. And I've gotten was on a call with Judy Fox earlier. Got to listen to Corey Warfield, and there was a couple of things that both of them I'm kind of like taking away. I'm still kind of processing. Like Corey, for example, was really in today's thought leadership club masterclass, was saying how he doesn't necessarily you know buy into like, oh, you need to have quote unquote your title in your headline. You need to be able to distinguish, set yourself apart. And I thought that was interesting because it is a different it is a different way. There's Roy. It is a different way of that. I've never looked. I do think you need to have at least somewhat of your title in there, but because when people need to understand, to what Roy's point was, what do you do? It's not enough to say you're a CEO, right? Like I need to understand what that, like. Okay, a CEO for what? A CEO where? But what makes you special about being the CEO? So I think those are the things that we have to really start to narrow down on. Let me go back to just looking at looking at my notes here, folks. 1 second. Shell, in terms of getting to that, what is your biggest lesson or takeaway that you would encourage somebody if they're still a little lost in terms of how to get there, or what are, struggling with, defining their purpose on this platform?
Okay, thanks for clarifying that because I was about to ask you which why do you want me to address? The why are you here question or the why should people care question? So thank you for getting, reading my mind, if you will. We do that
Yes,
sometimes, folks.
we do.
Uh,
It's
so
been a little bit, so.
if you are someone who's still struggling to figure out exactly why you're here, um, maybe another way to think about it is, what are your goals for the platform? What is your most urgent need? What is the priority here? Because the why, just like you, can change over time. And this can go back to, how do you want to position yourself? Like, what is the goal? So, like, do you want to be known as a thought leader? Are you here as a job seeker? Are you here as somebody, as a coach or a consultant, somebody who's an entrepreneur, small business owner, looking for their own clients? Are you a combination of all those things? Because we can be multi passionate, and serve more than one arena, but you need to be clear on what that is. And if you're not clear on that, then I don't want to say everything else after that is going to fail, but like, it's just not going to come across as clear and to the point as if you already knew what those goals were. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what my why is, think about, like, all right, why are you even showing up here? What is the reason that you come to LinkedIn? Is it a job board? Is it to network and have fun? Is it to build community? Are you trying to get your voice out there? Are you looking to network with people? Are you looking for referrals, collaborative partners? Like, are you trying to sell your services and offers? Like, why? Dig deeper. There's so much more that to you than just like that surface level of like, oh yeah, I'm here because it seems like a good place to be. Like, what's the reason behind it? So start asking yourself those deeper questions.
Absolutely. And so let's talk a little bit about, I mean, Roy, I know you've shared the story in terms of how you got to being the promotional product disruptor, and you shared the story that, people are now kind of recognizing that. And yes, we do, Meryl, have a Vulcan mind meld sometimes as a Star Trek reference. So, so, but I'd love to know, I'd love to have you share that again for people, just really quickly, of like, why did you make that change? What, because you were building, I mean, you truthfully had a strong brand. You were building your brand. Why make the change after you've already been on the profile? You've had a established profile, you're getting lots of views on videos. All those things were happening without it. So why make the change?
That is such a good question, and there's an answer. So the reality of LinkedIn is that for me, and I'm hoping this applies to you as well, is that your presence should always be a work in progress. If you think that you've reached the destination, you've only just starting out. And that's what happens is people get complacent in where they are. So I'm always, and I always have been, looking for the most creative way to explain what I want to be known for. I've been a, a branding and marketing strategist. I've been um, a branding expert, and so it's gone on. But one day the penny dropped because there are three important words that I want to be known for. Number one, I want people to know that I sell products. That's it. They must know that. Number two, these are not just any products, they're promotional products. And number three, what am I doing differently to anybody else that sells promotional products? I'm disrupting the market. So at this point in time, that is the title that I'm the most comfortable with. But here's some other important aspects that I think we can talk about. Is I see my LinkedIn journey as a puzzle, as a tapestry, and if you can visualize a puzzle, you have all these bits and pieces all over the place that you put into a frame to make the puzzle complete. And the same with tapestry is as you weave in different threads, you're making the tapestry more interesting and clearer to people. There's the message. When you weave in these colors into a tapestry, you're making a clearer picture. So if you're not sure what you want to be known for, you will never find that out yourself. So the first thing is exactly what Shell said, is to have a clear intention. What do you want to be known for? And I've repeated this so many times on LinkedIn, is what do you want to be known for? That's the single most important thing. And then what you do is you start building the puzzle with your profile, your profile picture, with a video, with your banner, and so it goes on all the way down. And those are the pieces, the recommendations, piece of the puzzle. Um, Scrolling banners, piece of the puzzle, and so it goes on. So for me, that's the important thing. And there's much more than that, but that's like an overview of why I've always looking to refine and keep my profile as a work in progress. Hope that makes sense. My name is Roy, and I'm out.
It makes perfect sense. And I really want people to, and honestly, go back and listen to the replay, because you get a replay with the LinkedIn Lives. And really listen to, if you listen to what Shell had said about understanding and getting that, and then kind of listen to what Roy, he had three specific points. And you may be saying, well, how does that apply to me? The reality is, though, he's very specific in terms of like, he has three goals that he wanted to do. And it's a question of like, okay, is this what I'm achieving right now with where my profile's at, or do I need to switch and change my profile? And so that's going to be my next question for you, Shell, is that we both have had iterations of our profile. And I know you're consistent. You're very, because you and I are trying not to use the word consistent as much, where you are committed to, and we can talk about that consistency versus commitment, and why
they go
there's
hand
that
in hand.
difference.
Let's be clear
They
about
do
that.
go, yeah, they do go hand in hand. But that being said, when you're looking to change your profile or make those changes and edits, what are things that you keep in mind?
I am always trying to do a better job of listening to my audience. And so, what I mean by that is like when I'm having conversations on people's in the comments of people's posts, in the DMs, on Zoom calls, people that are my ideal clients, or they work in or adjacent to the same audience that I serve. I'm always listening for the language that they use. My ear is like, oh, that's a different way to say this thing that I thought I was saying really clearly over here. I I don't keep it all in one place sometimes, but I have a notebook. Again, it's not always on the same page for me to flip back to easily, but I have a notebook that I go through, and anytime I hear these things that jump out at me that my ideal audience says, I'm paying attention and I'm writing it down. And I'm keeping it there until I hear it a few times. Because I want evidence that more than one person is saying that thing or something very, very similar. And then once I have something that like sounds like something other people would say in my audience, the people that I'm trying to reach, and I've heard it enough times, I don't have a specific number that I'm looking for it to be said in order to validate this, but I do want to hear it more, at least two, three, 5, 10 times, something that like keeps popping up. And then I'm usually like, okay, this is something I'm consistently hearing. This is something my audience is regularly saying and telling me that they resonate with, struggle with, uh, need help with, have experienced, and now I need to talk about it in their language. I may already be talking about those things, but until I have that exact same language that they're using, my profile is never going to be done. And you know what? As I talk to more and more people, have more and more conversations, I'm constantly going to refine it and adjust it for language that feels even more aligned with who my audience is. And that may mean that like it changes regularly throughout the year. That may mean that I only change it once every few months. But those are the things that's what I'm listening for. That's what I'm paying attention to in order to know that I do need to make changes to my profile. And then I'm probably going to put it in my banner. I'm probably going to put it in my headline. I'm probably going to put it in my about section. In some way, in my featured section, I'm probably going to ask people to reiterate it when they leave me recommendations. You're going to see it sprinkled throughout. It's not just enough to come full circle on this. It's not just enough for me to notice those things and make the change in one place because people need multiple touch points. I'm going to sprinkle it throughout my profile. So that's that's what I'm looking for to know that it's time to update something, and that's how you're going to see it evolve over throughout my profile.
Love it. So, um, yeah, guys, please feel free to drop any questions you have for us. It doesn't even have to, it can be a LinkedIn challenge you're facing or a question about LinkedIn. It doesn't necessarily have to be specifically about your profile. But, Roy has said this often. If you are a consistent viewer or listener of us, that, when you get that one chance, when somebody comes to your profile, that's your one chance. If your profile doesn't speak to what you want, what happens, Roy?
They're gone.
They're gone.
And guess what? They don't come back in 2 weeks' time to see. I wonder if Roy's changed his profile. They're gone. Gone, gone. I wanted to just amplify something that Cheryl said, which is, I don't think you realize that you dropped the mic. And that is this aspect of sprinkling aspects of your profile and your message throughout your entire profile. Because when people start looking and they start seeing the same messages and the same information when they go to your about section and when they go to recommendations and your services and your featured section, all of a sudden you are showing a consistent thread. I just wanted to just touch on one aspect, and that is this revolving scrolling banners. Now, this may not apply to everyone, but I just wanted to share this because this was a game changer for me. And I'm going to tell you why. I have 4 categories of offerings in my business: targeted promotional products, video brochures, outdoor branding, and events and exhibitions. So I can have 5 scrolling banners. I want a generic one that talks to what I do, which is bringing brand stories to life. And then I can revolve my other offerings. But here's the important thing: it's no good filling that up with all sorts of information because there's too much. So I have a picture of the category, I have the name of the category, and I have what it is. That's it. Now, what I wanted to convey here is that you might not need to use 5 scrolling banners. You might need to use 2. You don't have to use all 5. But the important thing is you want people to stop on your profile and say, I need to know more about what this person does. And that's the most important aspect of a profile, is to get people to stop and say, I need to learn more about this person. My name is Roy, and I'm out.
So Shell did share with me, and I do want to say this is, I want to believe that it is accurate, that I think everybody by now should have the scrolling banner. I think it's been completely rolled out. I do want to update that I know well, when I last checked, I did have access. I haven't done anything with it because I've been on kind of a project deadline this week, a massive one. So, plus client work. So I haven't spent a whole lot of time on, as much time on LinkedIn. But that being said, I love Roy's point because you don't have to utilize all of them. But I think there's ways, even if you're like, well, I don't have 5 products. What should I do? I think those are the things that you think about, like, how can I utilize this tool for my benefit? How can I apply it? How can I switch? And that's one of the things I know, like, I try to always coach from. And to Roy's point as well, and to Shell's, one of the things I always tell my clients in particular is, we know you're going to see the banner, the headline, and your profile picture. All of us are given that. Okay, where the viewer, the reader, goes from there, that is subject. We don't know. We don't know what they prefer. But so that's why it's important to have that repeated branding. And I always tell my clients, if I only read your about section, would I know what you do? If I looked at your featured section, would I know, could I figure out what you do, or like what you specialize in? And the same goes for your work experience. I see so many of these sections underutilized, or not utilized at all. And it's when we put that piece of the puzzle, it's a little bit of that, subliminal advertising message, like now, like when you see a swoosh, we all think of Nike, or we see a golden, we see the golden arches, we think of McDonald's. Even something close to that with the colors. Those are all things that, because they've branded those over and over and over, we now think of that. And so the same goes with your LinkedIn profile. Is it consistent with the language and the verbiage from top to bottom? And I would even say this goes into your recommendations. Does your recommendations reiterate those things that talk about why you're special? What makes you unique? What makes you stand out? And so, I definitely love that point, because I think that's really important, in terms of that. So yeah, so welcome Mary Kay, see you there. Welcome Jay. Just wanted to say a few hellos really quickly. Shell, I'm going to come back to you. And you mentioned one of the things that you try to do, I think you mentioned this, was kind of bringing a little bit of your profile. Maybe it was Roy. One of you, I think, tied it into it, but bringing your profile into, like, your engagement with others. How, I could just be making this up. I don't know. I could just be saying that you just said this, and I have no clue, because you're looking at me like, what the heck are you talking about?
It's not me, it's Roy.
Okay,
Uh,
Roy said it. I was like, I started down the road with Shell, and then I was like in my head going, I think I'm wrong
I
on
can't take
this.
credit for it.
I was
You
like,
could.
I think I'm wrong. And then I
It's
was like,
50%. It's 50% either me and or 50% Shell. There's
I
only
know.
two choices here.
And I literally was like, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna Shell did that. And then literally in my head, I'm literally saying, yeah, I don't think I'm right. And then Shell's looking at me like, yeah, this not me, girl. Like I'm not here to help you out. And I was
It's
like,
not me, but it's definitely not me.
but Roy, you mentioned that you were always trying to like kind of weave that profile. I'd love to have you share how you do that and some ways that you do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk in terms of um of my content. I mean, you would have heard me say this a gazillion times on LinkedIn and in these LinkedIn lives and audio events that we've had, and that is, it's all very well to have your profile properly optimized, and I I think that my profile is moving in the right direction. Uh, it'll never ever be 100%, and I'm quite comfortable with that. But 1% of the time can make it better. But having the profile clearly articulating who you are is one component. The other component is your content to speak to who you want to be known for. And I'm going to give you an example because it'll make it a little bit clearer. So you can see that I call myself a promotional product disruptor. Here's my banner behind me in my office, promotional product power. Now, on a Monday, I do a creativity post and I show a creative image. And then I say, if you want to stand out in the crowd, you should be speaking to people like me. I don't sell that concept, but I show the creativity. So if people see my content on a Monday, they'll go across to my profile. Let me know a little bit more about this person. On a Tuesday, I do a business related post. I either do, I told you I could do 4 categories. So I sprinkle the different aspects of what I do. And I don't use it as a sales point. I use it just like this. This customer had this problem. I use these products to assist them to overcome that problem or challenge or pain point. And here was the result that they got by using the products and the strategies that I sell or that I offer. So Tuesday becomes my go-to, and I can tell you categorically that numerous people will send me a DM to say, we saw your post about this. Can you give us some advice around targeted promotional products to go on an exhibition, whatever it might be? And then for the rest of the week, I bring in other contact to show that I'm a human being. Saturdays, I do my beach video posts. On Thursdays, I've started to do, these are things that you may not know about me. What I want to show is that I'm fallible, I'm a business person, but I also have a personality, and that I can offer all sorts of different aspects. And that is, why do people engage with others? Because they like, know, and trust them. And how can you build the like, know, and trust factor? By showing up consistently in your content that has to speak to who you are and what you've been known for. And that's why the content is the second piece of the puzzle that belongs to the profile optimization. I know that is a long way to say what I wanted to say, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. My name is Roy,
No,
and
I love it, and also too, like when I know for a fact when you leave a comment, you leave a little tagline after your comment too. So it's a repeated branding. Um,
yeah.
you're continuously using the branding, and I know sometimes people cringe at that word branding because they're like, oh, branding's for projects, like I'm not a superstar, but you're here tonight, so you're a rock star. But so,
Oh,
but and I know we think of our, obviously, and to Roy's point too, we're showing ourselves as humans. So I think you have to, there is that, it's not to say that the branding shouldn't be, um, the branding doesn't take over the human aspect of it. I think
Mel,
that's an important aspect of it.
Mel, can we come back a little bit later to the sputter thing? Because I want to share something a little bit later. I don't want to
Yeah,
hog the conversation right now.
yeah, no, absolutely. So, Shell, what are your thoughts in terms of like taking that? I know for me personally, actually, as Roy was, and this is something I probably have had in the back of my mind. I know for me personally, I probably don't share where I could grow content wise is sharing a little bit more about me, and my quirky behavior and odd behavior sometimes and the things that I like. And so I think it does come, I think it comes through when I do audio rooms. I think, I have a sarcastic sense of humor and, obviously love my cat. Wherever he is in this house. And so, so there's obviously things more that I could share about myself and my background. What do you like think in terms of, that continuous branding of like how can you be that, how could you take that and utilize that approach for yourself? Just gonna use you as an example for others to learn from. Like how,
Yeah,
if you wanted to do that, how would you do it for yourself?
continuous branding, continuous, consistent, intentional branding. Um, I, I want to say that I think I do a pretty good job of it already. However, I always think that there's things that I can do better. I think most people can always do things better. And when it comes to being intentional with my, I'm going to talk specifically about the content, not my profile, because we've already talked a little bit about that. When it comes to being intentional with my content and even more intentional with my engagement, more my content than my engagement, but they, again, those things go hand in hand. I see my personal brand growing and evolving in a direction that shares, controversial is not the right word, but I want to take more of a stance on things. Um, and I try to do that. I try to not stay rigid to one set way of doing things. I try to test the waters and see what works as far as content style or post style or writing style. You've seen me over the last, year. I was going to say months, but I think it's been at least a year or probably two where I occasionally rewrite song lyrics that get stuck in my head and reposition them as LinkedIn engagement or LinkedIn tips, or like burnout and sustainability tips. And so like I try to push things a little bit creatively within my wheelhouse and my expertise. But I do think I want to take more of a stand and again, not in a controversial way per se, but like I want to be really intentional with like, all right, here's what I believe. Here are the results that people I've worked with have seen. Here's why this matters. Not the usual stance of you should be posting this many times a week. You should be posting this many times a day because believe it or not, I've seen people posting multiple times a day again lately, and I'm like, what is going on here? I thought this was not a thing, but I see a lot of that happening. How many comments you need to be leaving every single day? How many connection requests you need to be sending? Should you be sending connection requests with a note all the time? Like, of course, I have my opinions about these things, and you've heard me preach them time and again. But like, I want people to really know like the pros and cons of each of those things and the results that people have seen because of going one way or another. There's no right or wrong here. It's just whatever way works for you. And we've all said that. But I do want to take more of a stance on like, if this way works for you, here's what you may be noticing as you keep doing it more. And if you are on this side of the fence, if you see, like, I want people to be able to see multiple sides of the coin instead of like, it's this way or the highway. My way, my way, my way. It's not just my way, it's your way. So,
So
yeah.
I'm going to add a couple of things to that and some lessons that I've actually was talking to Judy Fox today. Um, we did a clubhouse room earlier today, and one of and somebody came up and was wanting to get their content, and I'm just, I'm listening, I'm supporting, I'm talking in the chat, whatever. She made a very good point about the whole, this whole thing that there's been this structure around like the number of times you have to post, or how many comments is going to get you X, Y, and Z, or how many connection requests, that you should send 100 connection requests a week. I've heard that. And so there's 2 points I want to make. One was the point from Judy, which was as she was coaching, giving advice, coaching, we were talking about like Netflix shows. And what if you actually posted less? Because the whole theory is like, oh, you got to be consistent. You got to post because people will forget about you, right? That's what everybody preaches out there. But if you think of yourself as like the Netflix show, we were, or the hottest show that's out there right now, whatever your go-to binge is, do you forget about the next episode? If you're really into a show, do you actually just forget about it? It does. You may be able to binge the whole season, but what if you only got a couple of episodes at once? You don't stop and go, yeah, I'm going to forget about that next week, right? Not if the content in the what you're putting out there is interesting and engaging, and you act like a human. You don't forget about it. You wait for it, and then then you like, oh, okay, I see. Like Melanie puts out her newsletter every Thursday, trying to be consistent with the time for everybody. But you don't necessarily forget that. And so I think it was an interesting point because again, Judy is one of those people that I do believe does go against the grain of what you hear everybody coaching. And to the other point, not that we're trying to be Judy Fox or anything, we're trying to be Shell and Mel in our own way. But somebody said, well, why would I hire why would I enroll in LinkedIn Rockstar Academy? What's so special about it? And I was like, that's a good question. That's a good question that we have to be able to answer to people. But the reality was, one of the things that I realized was, we want you to authentically show up as yourself. You're not going to hear from us the same. There are some best practices, but for the most part, we're going to tell you, we want you to find your own way, and you don't necessarily have to do it the same way everybody else does. Because and I always use us three as an example. We all do it very differently and use different tools and things, and we still have our own successes. So I think that's a really important point. So, and I encourage you to be that disruptor too, Shell.
I want to say that I'm going to give you a good reason why you should be going to Mel and Shell's Academy. So I'm the independent one, you don't forget, but not my academy. I've been sitting in these rooms with Mel and Shell for months upon months upon months now, and I see the value that they bring to others. I see how they've helped people fix up their profiles. I see how they've helped people on their journey. They don't force feed you with what they want to do. They look at what works for you, and they show you the best way to do it. And that's why it is an absolute incredible opportunity to go and be part of their academy, because you're going to be learning, and you're going to be learning from people that really care about your LinkedIn journey. Is that a good enough explanation, Mel and Shaw?
I think it's good enough
I
that
think
that's exactly what we're
it's a
going to
pretty good, it's a
say.
pretty good.
I think, Shell, we need to go back to the recording and write all that down. That's what I think.
Look, the reality is, there's a bunch of different ways on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn to do the similar things. And I'll give you an example. Everybody absorbs information differently, which is why we also from time to time stress testing different ways of presenting your information on your profile, in your content, the format of things, whether it's a video or a voice note. or a text post or a carousel or an image or a live event, whatever it is. There's so many different ways, right? Like test and see what your audience gravitates towards and what you also feel okay doing and creating. I was recently working, not in terms of content creation or engagement, but I was recently working with a client and we were talking about different ways to use LinkedIn as a search engine, as just as an example. And we were going through the search filters and I gave some action items for them to work on. It wasn't they understood it in the moment, but then when it came time for them to implement it and put it into action outside of our call, they struggled a little bit. Came back on the next call. I said, okay, talk me through what you're doing. Where are you getting stuck? Because it wasn't clicking. Again, remember, people absorb information differently. We looked at it through the lens those same filters through the lens of group pages, company pages, school pages, organizations. Same information, different presentation of that information, and different way you actually want to use and find. It immediately, because the visual was different, it wasn't just a boom, 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 boom list of responses or like data being spit out and profiles to go check out. They absorbed it instantly. So my point is, like, what works for some people isn't going to work for other people, but there's so many different workarounds to get you the information, to bring you access to more people and the conversations that matter to you, that even if it's not me, it's worth it to have a conversation with one of us or somebody else who you like, know, and trust, to see what other options or opportunities or ways to absorb that information may work better for you. Again, the search filters and using LinkedIn as a search engine is just one small example, but there's so many different ways to do everything on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Roy, was there something else you wanted to share? I know we wanted to come back to something.
Yes, I did. First of all, Meryl asked me to show. So this is my content calendar. This is on my desk, looking at me all the time. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And guess what's underneath here? Last year's one, to remind me about what worked and what didn't work last year. So what I wanted to particularly share, and we were talking about the footers a bit early on, is I wanted to encourage you to think about doing this. So when I started with this concept of the footers, I thought, man, this is self-promotion. Damn right it is. I thought to myself, I had heard this from somebody, and Lynette Johnson and myself had a conversation, and we said we're going to try this out. I've been using these footers now for maybe a year or so, and I've only ever had 2 people say to me, stop using your footers on my comments in my posts, and I've stopped. But here's some of the things that have come out of it. When I create a post, I put at the bottom, ring my bell, connect with me, connect to my company page, and then on the bottom, I put subscribe to my newsletter. Let me share this with you. Every single solitary week, I get between 10 and 20 new subscribers to my newsletter. Shall I repeat that? Every week, I get subscribers. Not because I've got a brilliant newsletter, but because I'm reminding people post after post after post that you have got access to my newsletter. When I comment on other people's posts, I have a little footer as well. It's got my name, and it's got my name highlighted. So if you click on my name, it takes you to my profile. I've got the name of my company. When you click on that, it takes you to my company page. It tells you that I'm a promotional product disruptor, and it reminds you of the 3 hashtag words: promotional products, marketing ideas, and branding product or branding, whatever it is. Now, here's the thing. If you're consistently reminding people of who you are and what you do, guess what? You're getting more visibility than the next person. So I encourage you to think about this footer thing, because not enough people use it, And guess what? It gets results. Ask Kevin Turner, ask Jeff Young, ask Lene Johnston, ask Roy Kowalski. You can go to the list of people that use footers, and guess what? There is no harm done. The only harm done is to two people that said, don't send those, don't put those on my posts. And I stopped. So my name is Roy, and I'm out. That's what I wanted to raise.
And I think it's honestly people, I think, overthink this kind of stuff. Like truthfully, like they think like, oh, well, I don't want to be that person, and like, oh, it's self promotion, and like, what are people going to think about? Like, we overthink about what others are going to overthink. And truthfully, I saw Anthony Hines is here, and he had a comment earlier about how he's, because we're both in the career space, and he helps a lot of job seekers. It's not he just does it out of the goodness of his heart of like trying to get people. But he, mentioned that he really encourages job seekers to post, and it's the one thing. And I wanted to say to Anthony out there that I agree with that, because I think I'm telling job seekers right now, what's the one thing that nobody else is doing? They're not engaged. You're not engaging, and you're not creating your own posts. I don't care about it going viral or anything like that. I want you to showcase your expertise, because I'm going to bring it back to the profile, because guess what? Every person that comes to my profile, we can see your activity. I can see what videos Roy has done. I can see the newsletters Melanie's written. I can see the posts that Shell has created. So it's another way to establish your expertise, your domain, your subject expert. What's your knowledge in? And it's a way for people to consume that information fairly quickly. And the same going to Roy, the same thing there about having the header. It's actually very brilliant, because it's, again, when everybody else that sees that post, guess what they're also seeing? They're seeing Roy's header, or the footer, and they're seeing that. And then they're thinking, well, who's this Roy guy leaving this, like what, or they go to read the comment, because now the comment's visible. So it really, sometimes we have to sometimes lead the horses to the water, and get them to the area that we want. And I actually just think that I really do think it's a way to get, it's something I'm encouraging a lot of job seekers to do. Like, how do you want to stand out? I can tell you this. How you don't stand out is commenting on a post and saying, yeah, this is a great post. How you don't stand out, I'm just going to put my career coach hat on. If somebody makes a post about like, oh, this person's hiring, or I'm hiring for XYZ, I see this all the time. It's the equivalent to great post. I'm interested. No, now's your time to say, hey, I've got XYZ. I am, but even if somebody were to like, hey, I'm looking for a LinkedIn person to help me with my LinkedIn, that would be our time, Michelle, for us to say, we could go, hey, let's talk. Or we could say, you know what, I actually have XYZ amount of experience. This is what I do for a living. Okay, like, hey, check this out. Or, now's the time to speak up and say, shine the spotlight on me. So, and that's okay. And I think we have to give ourselves permission to do that. So we're at 6:53, and want to first off thank everybody for tuning in and watching and listening. So we definitely appreciate that. If you catch the replay, make a comment in there. Let us know that you caught the replay. And I'm going to go to Roy first. Roy, let everyone know about LinkedIn Mastery on Friday.
Well, we've actually changed it. It's no longer
Okay.
no longer a LinkedIn Mastery on a Friday. We have changed the concept. We feel that we've overstayed our welcome with social serving and lead generation, and we've transformed into the topic, or the title is disruptive business leadership.
Ooh, I like
so
it.
If you're interested in learning a little bit more about how important it is to disrupt the market as a leader, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, come and take a listen. We will be talking to you about how important it is to position yourself, in a market where most people are swimming in a sea of sameness. So 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be doing disruptive business leadership with Martin Stark and Ilya Francis and myself. See you then.
Perfect. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So definitely check that out. And Shell, I'm going to just go to you for closing thoughts as we approach the 7 o'clock hour.
You already know what I'm about to say. At least I think you do. We so appreciate you being here. We do certainly hope that you have taken away something actionable that you can practice for yourself. If you test something out and it works or it doesn't, or if you need some more help with it, let us know. If you create a post around it, please tag us in it or share it with us so that we can support you on it. We are absolutely here and overjoyed to support you in that. And if you know somebody else who would benefit from these conversations, we invite you to bring them along with you next week. But before we wrap up for this evening, I want to remind you, you're all here with a common goal, a common LinkedIn goal to become a LinkedIn rock star, to better yourself in your profile, in your engagement, in your content, in your outreach, in your connections, whatever it is on the platform. You all came here with that like-minded reason. If you haven't already done so, look around in the chat, see if there's anybody worth chatting with and continuing that conversation. Go back to the networking tab on the events page and see who else was interested in joining or participating in this conversation, and do your due diligence to see if there's anybody else worth sparking a conversation. If they're on the list and they didn't make it to attend, maybe they'll catch the replay. Maybe you could even gently nudge them in that direction with some, with the connection message or your engagement. Who knows? But I want to put it out there that this is a common ground for you to connect on. Have conversations that matter to you and keep those conversations going. And you can do that beyond this event page too. You can go to any other LinkedIn Live or event page and look at the networking tab, as long as you have said that you are interested in attending that event. So go back and do your due diligence and don't let those opportunities to connect with aligned people and people who could be great supporters or referrals or even other introductions for other people in your network. Go back and take a look. It's worth having that second glance on things to see who else is in the room with you. I can't do the audio room one of look up, look down, look left, look right. It doesn't work anymore. But same principle.
I mean, I guess you could look left and look right and look up and down. But,
then you're just gonna get dizzy.
Then you're all by yourself doing that. But if there's topics for the future you'd like for us to cover, please let us know. And wherever you're at in the world, hope you have an amazing weekend. Roy's is going to be starting sooner than later, and we're all jealous of that. So, so on that note, I'm going to wish everyone a good night or have a great day, Roy. Enjoy your day, and we will see you guys back next week.
See you all. Bye.
Bye, everyone.